You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the globe to bring you the latest developments in medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja.
We love the herb.
It's time for the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville. Now, here's your host, Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, October 25th, 2017, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. It's also got to be Data Christmas. That's right, it's Data Christmas, not December 25th, but October 25th. Usually around this time of October, we get the latest Gallup poll. And oh boy, folks, who've been following my Twitter feed, you know that I am excited as hell about this new data showing 64% of America supports marijuana legalization. And for the first time, a majority of Republicans, 51%. I know it's coming up in the Cannabis Headline News, and we're going to cover it in depth in our drug war data mining segment today. But I'm so excited about this, I couldn't help but just bring it up here in the introduction. So that's coming up on the show. We're going to get into the data. I got all sorts of poll information for you. Also coming up on the show, I had a chat earlier today with a fine young gentleman named Harrison Baum. He's the founder and CEO of something called the Daily High Club. Now, if you know the Daily Shave Club or Birchbox, where they send you a box full of stuff every month, you know, something new, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that concept for people like you and me, right? People like you and me. I can't say exactly why people like you and me because of legal concerns, you know. So, those of us who like our tobacco, let's put it that way. We love tobacco, right? Wink. Anyway, we got that interview coming up in our cannabis community chat, and getting really excited about Halloween as well. The Halloween weekend coming up, and I'll have a costume to show you on Friday. It'll be quite impressive. I'm heading out after the show today to pick up the last little bits of stuff I need for the costume. So it's going to be pretty impressive. Although you will have to be a fan of 80s sci-fi fantasy to get my costume. You have to be. I'll give you a hint. I got something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away. Some of you know what I'm talking about. For the rest of you, we'll just have to keep that a secret until we hit Friday's show. So all of that coming up today on the Marijuana Agenda. Thanks for your support. Now, let's get to the news.
This is your Cannabis Headline News. Brought to you by MarijuanaMoment.net, the complete source for all your marijuana news in one morning newsletter from Marijuana Majority Founder Tom Angel. Subscribe today for free at MarijuanaMoment.net.
This is your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, October 25th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville. The latest poll from the Gallup organization is the first in history to show majority support for marijuana legalization among the nation's Republicans. Fully 51% of Republicans agree that marijuana use by adults should be legal, a question Gallup has asked since October of 1969. Nationwide, support for legalization is now at 64%, with just 34% opposed. The new record level of support drew praise from national marijuana advocacy leaders who cautioned the Trump administration to pay heed to the growing consensus. Normal political director Justin Streekel commented, quote, "It is high time that members of Congress take action to comport federal law with majority public opinion and to end the needless criminalization of marijuana." Tom Angel, founder of Marijuana Majority, said the poll and its display of a continuing trend of increasing support means, quote, "It would be politically disastrous for the Trump administration to allow Jeff Sessions to break the president's campaign pledges to respect state marijuana laws," end quote. Morgan Fox, communications director for Marijuana Policy Project, said, quote, "In the 5 years since the first states made marijuana legal for adults, it has become increasingly clear that, unlike prohibition, regulation works." A new poll by Sacred Heart University shows that 71% of Connecticut residents support legalizing and taxing marijuana. The poll was conducted on October 3 through the 12th and surveyed 1,000 Connecticut residents from around the state. This level of support marks a significant increase since the last poll in 2015, which showed 63% approval for making marijuana legal for adults. The poll was conducted specifically in the context of the state's ongoing budget crisis, and the proposal to help fix this issue by regulating and taxing marijuana was the most popular solution. 60% of respondents said that the state budget should be fixed by, quote, creating new sources of tax revenue, end quote, while under 33% supported cutting services, and a mere 15% supported raising existing taxes. Sam Tracy, director of the Connecticut Coalition to Regulate Marijuana, said, quote, this is a clear mandate for the legislature to enact sensible marijuana laws to help the state create a workable budget. While insisting he is, quote, not a fan of legalization, end quote, newly retired Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, William Brownfield, told a Colombian newspaper, quote, it is likely that marijuana may be reclassified, end quote. Brownfield, who until last month was the top international anti-drug official in the United States, told El Tiempo that the nation should, quote, let the experiment advance and consider its positive and negative effects, end quote. Brownfield cited traffic accidents and emergency room visits as some of those negatives, but clarified that he wasn't necessarily calling legalization a failure. Striking a tone familiar with drug policy reformers, Brownfield added, quote, I insist that we must be able to adjust policies to ensure that they do the least possible harm, end quote. The chief medical officer in Colorado, Dr. Larry Wolk, told Canadians looking forward to marijuana legalization in 2018 that the state, quote, hasn't experienced any significant issues as a result of legalization, end quote. Wolk noted marijuana has caused a few more visits to the ER, but most of those people are visitors, not residents. He credits an extensive education campaign with helping residents use marijuana safely. On the subject of safety, Wolk cautioned against selling marijuana in liquor stores or bars. Setting a legal age for use is tricky, said Wolk, because there are both health and practical factors to take into consideration. Quote, biologically, we know the correct age should be 25. 19 may be a little too young. I mean, because again of the developing brain issues, but if that's the legal drinking age and you already have a high prevalence, then it may make sense to align that with the legal drinking age, end quote. Over the span of the last 3 years, Philadelphia police arrested about 9,000 fewer people for marijuana possession than they did in the previous 3 years, thanks to the city's decriminalization policy. From the 2014 policy through August 31st of this year, Philadelphia police arrested 2,900 people for marijuana possession. In the previous 3 years, they made nearly 12,000 arrests, representing a 75% decrease since decriminalization has come into effect. This has been your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, October 25th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
And now, in the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Marijuana Agenda presents this anti-drug public service announcement.
If you have teenagers, I'm asking you to have a very difficult talk with them. Not about sex. For a lot of us, that would be easy compared to drugs. Drugs like cocaine and crack. But you must talk to them about drugs. If you don't talk about it, if you don't fight it, why should they? The idea of your kids using cocaine or crack ought to scare you to death. So please, learn about it and talk about it.
To combat this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Marijuana Agenda every weekday at mjagenda.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Hi, I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. If you appreciate my full-time dedication to reporting and analyzing the news about cannabis, consider becoming a patron of the show. For just $4.20 per month, you'll help keep my live stream and podcast free while earning yourself your own private ad-free podcast link for the show, as well as links to the supporting articles and data. For a $9.99 VIP subscription, you'll get all that plus my exclusive research, data tables, and graphics. Just log on to mjagenda.com and click the Become a Patron button today.
The cannabis community is a diverse set of people from all walks of life. conservative and liberal, black and white, straight and gay, rich and poor, and everyone in between. Learn more about the people we are freeing from adult cannabis prohibition in our Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Cannabis Community Chat. I'm Russ Belville, and joining me today, a very interesting interview. We've got the CEO and founder of the Daily High Club. His name is Harrison Baum, joining us by telephone. Harrison, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You know, I saw the name Daily High Club, and I thought, I should already be a part of this since I'm high daily. But this Daily High Club, you sent me a couple of the example shipments from this club. It's kind of a regular, I don't know, what do you call this? A stash box full of goodies. Could you describe the product to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've ever heard of like Birchbox or Dollar Shave Club, it's kind of like that for smoking supplies, smoking essentials, and just kind of finding the latest and greatest supplies in the industry. And also with our most popular package, which is most likely the big box that the warehouse sent you, you get a new piece of glass every month. And we design and manufacture all of the glass ourselves. So each piece is very special, limited run. You won't find it anywhere else. So it's really been awesome.
I definitely have to account for that, Harrison, because in one of these shipments, I got my new favorite piece of glass here, Dank the Tank, sitting here right on my desk, being used pre-show. Who are the glass artists that are making these items?
Yeah, so we have a guy named John. He used to be a glass artist. He used to sell to shops, and we brought him on board about 4 months into the company. So he has all the experience designing and coming up with the ideas. And definitely the Dank Tank is one of our favorites. As I like to call it, the weapon of grass destruction. And then we have, we also this month, most of our stuff isn't war themed. It just happened to be this way. This month we came out with a grenade, which is really cool too. But yeah, he's the guy who's the genius behind all of this glass.
Yeah, it's wonderful stuff. I love this little tank. It's cute as hell. The grenade is pretty cool too, gotta say. So while it's called Daily High Club, this isn't like a daily shipment, right?
No, but it gives you enough, starting at $1, it gives you enough to smoke a J a day, every day.
Gotcha.
And for the bigger shipments, it's for people who smoke every day. Much like both of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. So in addition to the glass, what other kind of stuff are people going to get in their monthly shipment?
Yeah, so you get like 10 to 15 other smoking supplies. And we really like to work with new companies and new brands that people haven't really seen before. One of my favorites particularly is the lighter pick. I'm not sure if you've heard of that or seen that, but it's really cool. It's like they improved the classic dugout and bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they improved that so that it's completely waterproof. It holds up to a quarter of your favorite herbs, and it's got a little poker that slides out and can instantly clean the bat. And we saw this. We thought it was like the coolest product. We made some videos of it on social media, and these guys were brand new. They didn't even have a social media page, and we just kind of like blew up this product. Our video got over 1 million views, and people thought it was the coolest thing because we thought it was the coolest thing. And so things like that, that hopefully you guys haven't seen before, and we can kind of introduce people to new products. We think of some other kind of products we had got on, kind of like we got like the debowler, and then we also have like classic things like lots of different type of rolling papers, hopefully kinds that you've never tried before, from all over the world. We also will have classics that we know people enjoy too. Like Raw and Element, etc. I know Raw just came out with their new Raw Black, which is, as they say, their best rolling paper ever. So we included that this month. We're just always trying to be on kind of the cutting edge because there's just a dizzying amount of these products coming out every day. So we like to do our research and test them and figure out which ones are the best to show people.
Yeah, this could be a great way for listeners out there to get the latest and greatest stuff and not have to visit 3, 4, 5 different head shops to try to find out what's going on. You can just get it shipped right to you. And of course, you're not shipping any ganja with this, so you gotta take care of that on your own. So is this available to everybody? I mean, can this be shipped domestically? Can it be shipped internationally? Can anybody sign up for this?
Yeah, absolutely. We've shipped to some of the strangest places you'd never expect. We ship a lot to like Israel and Norway and South America. But yeah, it's all for tobacco use only. So we ship all over the world, and it's really cool to see people all across the globe using the products and so enthusiastic about it. Yeah,
this Dank the Tank be perfect for tobacco. Mm-hmm. All right. So the other thing I was wondering about this is, a monthly shipment. What is this going to set someone back if they want to sign up for this?
So it starts at $1. And $1, you just get the essentials. You get the rolling papers, something to light up with, usually like hemp wick or stickers, just some sort of like bonus accessory or filter tips. And that's $1 with $2 shipping. And it's $1 extra if you want to ship it any place else in the world. And then we have a $12 pack, which is kind of mainly for just people who roll and want to try new wraps and rolling papers. And just to kind of be clear on that, we don't include any tobacco blunt wraps. Not only can we not really ship them, but a lot of our guys are not big fans of tobacco, so all of our blunt wraps are made of hemp. And then our $30 box, that's our most popular by far. And that's the one that comes with a new piece of glass every month, 10 to 15 smoking supplies. And next month is curated by Tommy Chong. So he's helping us design the glass and choose everything in it. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah. Tommy's a good friend of the show. Looking forward to seeing that shipment. Now, so you're saying really for like $1 plus $2 shipping and handling, $3 total, you could get the starter kit and see how you like it and maybe upgrade from there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's fantastic. Where can people find out more about this? You mentioned social media. I'm sure you got a Facebook and some other stuff people could look up.
Yeah, we're real big on Instagram. That's definitely our favorite. But we also have Facebook and Twitter. But it's the kind of main source is dailyhighclub.com.
Excellent. dailyhighclub.com. We're speaking with Harrison Baum. He's the CEO and founder. How did you come about founding the Daily High Club, and what industry did you come from before that?
Yeah, so I worked at Vistaprint. I was basically in charge of analyzing spam, and it kind of it wore me down a bit. Like literally, I'd have a filter over my screen because of like the amount of dick pills that I'd have to see on a daily basis. So I love their company, but I was really looking for a change. And so usually kind of when I was getting into my routine, I went to a head shop and I spent, I believe it was like $7 or $8 for a pack of rolling papers, filter tips, and a lighter. And I still actually have that receipt. And I was just like, damn, like this is really expensive. Like this stuff could easily be sold for $1. So I put this idea on Reddit, and I said like, hey guys, I have this idea. It's kind of like Dollar Shave Club, but for smoking supplies. And I put together like a scrappy site real quick. It wasn't anything fancy, and I got my first few hundred subscribers overnight. So shortly after, I walked out of my day job. And almost 2 years later, here I am. So definitely been really tough, but I'm just so thankful to be able to do what I love.
So are you like a one-man band, or do you have any employees now?
No, yeah, we have almost 20 employees.
That is amazing. People, they take a look at what's happening with legalization around the country, jobs that are being created, and right here we've got one of these ancillary types of companies, has nothing to do with weed whatsoever. Wink. And there you are creating jobs and making, a benefit to our economy. We really appreciate you doing that, Harrison.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate opportunities like this. If people weren't enthusiastic in sharing the product, then we wouldn't be here today.
Check it out, folks. It's dailyhighclub.com for the information. For as little as $3, you can start your monthly subscription, but I recommend going for that full $30 full meal deal, man. I got a couple of those boxes, and I was really impressed with what you sent me. Thanks so much, Harrison, for joining us on the show today. Anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to say, like, I don't want to make it too cheesy or anything, but there's so much opportunity here in this industry, really unlike anything other. Don't quote me on this. I don't know if this is exactly right, but someone told me that it was growing faster than the smartphone industry.
It is.
So, like, don't be afraid to just jump into this, because, I mean, if you screw up at it, like my first year at this, I spent screwing up, making every wrong decision possible until I didn't. So, like, the only way to make it here is to just take the leap. So I really encourage other people to do that too.
Excellent words of wisdom. Harrison Baum from dailyhighclub.com. Thank you for being here in the Cannabis Community Chat.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you again for having me.
This episode was produced as part of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville, the daily news and interview podcast covering the world of medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja. MJagenda.com.
If you work in the cannabis industry, consume marijuana, or just support freedom, you need to know about breaking policy news that affects you. Marijuana Moment is the daily newsletter that helps you stay on top of all the latest and most important state, federal, and international cannabis developments. Brought to you by longtime legalization activist Tom Angel, Marijuana Moment puts a concise yet comprehensive overview of cannabis news in your inbox early every weekday morning. Wake up to Marijuana Moment and rest assured you'll be ready for the cannabis news that's driving the day. Subscribe now at marijuanamoment.net.
You're not high. You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm astonished to hear people suggest we can solve our heroin crisis. Have you heard this? By having more marijuana.
Okay, maybe you're a little high.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
Total war against public enemy number one.
10 federal criminal penalties for 1 ounce of marijuana.
Marijuana is probably the most dangerous drug.
Legalization is just another word for surrender.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
This is not medicine. This is a Cheech and Chong show.
Encourage people to use less drugs.
I am ill.
That was the point.
I think it would be a mistake to legalize.
Negative reports coming out of
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Well, of course, today in the Data Mines, we're taking a look at the latest poll from the Gallup organization that is showing 64% support for marijuana legalization nationwide. This is a landmark poll, as it is the first time in American history that we've reached 64%. And the bigger headline coming out of this, of course, is that it's the first time in history we've seen a nationwide poll with majority support for marijuana legalization among Republicans. 51% of Republicans are supporting marijuana legalization. This is an historic day, and I wanted to dig just a little bit deeper into these numbers. I mentioned the 64% is the largest support we've seen. There have been some other polls that have been above 60. We saw a Public Religion Institute in September of 2016 registered a 63% support. So that's as high as it's ever been. We've topped that now with 64% support. And when you break this down among the parties, it's 72% support among Democrats, 67% support among independents, and as I mentioned earlier, it's 51% support among the GOP. This is amazing news, and it just goes to show you that legalization is winning. We are winning this battle, and the evidence that keeps coming in from the states that have legalized is showing that. In fact, each election, we've had double the number of legal states. We start with 2. In 2012, we got another 2. In 2014, we get another 4 in 2016. And there's some interesting ways of looking at this data. The Gallup poll fits a trend that we've been seeing since about the 90s of increasing public support. If we look back at the beginning of the Gallup poll, what we find is that in 1969, there was just 12% support for marijuana legalization, 12% support. And shortly thereafter, about 1970, 1971, is when NORML gets formed. And then 1972, the Schaefer Commission report comes out saying marijuana ought to be decriminalized. And you see that great rise in support. Leading to the early 80s, this is just Gallup polls information on this, that rose, almost tripled from the 12% that we saw in 1969 all the way up to, about 23%, 16%, continued to rise through the 70s, through the 80s, and the 90s, but it really took off once we hit the 2000s. That's when we see the greatest and quickest rise there in the support. And the opposition now is barely just over a third of the country that's opposed to marijuana legalization. That's also a record that we're seeing in the polls as far as how many people disapprove of marijuana legalization. That is, how many people still support prohibition. It is not actually a record. The lowest disapproval that we've seen came from an Associated Press poll in 2013 with just 29%, but there were so many that were undecided on that as kind of an outlier. There was a CBS News poll and a Quinnipiac poll, both from 2017, both from this year, that showed only 33% support for prohibition. So just about every poll that's come out in 2017 has shown about only a third of America still supports this notion of keeping marijuana prohibited. The evidence from the states that have legalized, and I think most compellingly, they've seen the tax revenues that have come in, shows that the Republicans, who are all about the money, are beginning to get on board with this. Looking back historically, we can see how it used to be independents who had a greater support for marijuana legalization. This is the chart we're showing on the screen is just the Gallup poll support by party since 2003. And we've risen from somewhere around 20% there support for marijuana legalization among Republicans. Now we are at 51% among Republicans. So a huge rise. And again, now we have majorities in all of the political demographics. It's just astonishing for people to be able to look at this data. Again, the raise from 20 to 51 among Republicans, from 47 to 67 among independents, 35 to 72. So double the support from Democrats and more than double, 150% more support among the Republicans. So actually, as a group, Republicans are coming around to a greater degree. Now, this all falls along trend lines that are echoed in other polls. The chart I'm about to show you now on the screen for those watching live or on YouTube, and I'll describe for our podcast listeners, is a chart of every single poll that has asked the basic question, should the adult use of marijuana be legal? Now, the question's sometimes phrased a little bit differently, but I feel I've been fair in including all of these polls color-coded by various news organizations, pollsters, and other news gathering sources like Pew and some nonprofits, shows that we had a rise in support for marijuana legalization through the late 70s. And then once we hit the Nancy Reagan Just Say No era, we see it kind of stall out and decline. This is the kind of data that Jeff Sessions looks at and says, see, if we tell people to just say no, it stops their support for legalization. But I tend to believe that what really happened in the 1980s was the climate of fear. A climate of fear came over the country, and people were less honest about their use of marijuana. As we see since the early 90s and the advent of medical marijuana, it's been nothing but a steady rise to the top, and on a pretty steady and linear increasing slope there for marijuana legalization. We can show this in a little more detail if we take a look at just the polls since 2001, where they were hovering around the 30-40% mark, then made their way rapidly up into the 50s and 60s. Or we can just look at it since we legalized marijuana. The polls since we legalized marijuana have shown almost consistently above 50%. And most notably, if you look at since November of 2014, when Oregon and Alaska and Washington, D.C. joined Colorado and Washington in becoming legalized marijuana states, since our second election, there has not been a single poll that has shown support for prohibition. Every poll since Oregon's legalization has shown majority support for marijuana legalization. So this concept that there might be buyer's remorse that's just been repudiated in 2 straight elections is also repudiated by the polls. They continue to increase pollster by pollster, year by year, showing that Americans do support marijuana legalization. Now, this information will be available on the Patreon blog that we have for our VIP members of the Marijuana Agenda. You can become a VIP for as little as $4.20 a month, and you'll be able to download the high-resolution graphics of all of these statistics that I've been showing on the screen. For those of you podcast listeners, you'll be able to get those downloaded as well and be able to follow along or share these graphics throughout your social media networks. That's why we're here, and we appreciate your support that allows us to continue put these graphics out there. There are some low-res versions available for free. I know not all the listeners. Some of you listeners are on the free podcast. If you need to get them for free, there's some low-resolution versions through my Twitter feed for the show at MJ Agenda Show on Twitter, at MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. You can follow at MJ Agenda on Facebook, or just get it through my personal feed, Radical Russ, on Facebook and on Twitter. Now, that's all the time we got for today's show. I want to thank each and every one of you for being a supporter and listening. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and views you can use for the cannabis community. For everyone here at Delta 9 House and Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
Follow MJ Agenda on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and follow MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. Learn more at mjagenda.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it.